is that's like the endurance part. That's you're building that base. And I think that you've been in that treading water building base phase for some time, and now you're starting it's starting to pay off.
Yeah. I think about it, and like I started with Strength Inc. last June. And it was like, okay, well, let's just run a couple cycles with them. And, maybe in the fall I'll do a meet. And that's kind of what I did. And it didn't really line up with what the team was doing. And so there was kind of like this, like, oh, well, let's put you on the side over here, and I'll just, throw some other programming at you to get you ready for this local competition you did, or you're going to do. And there wasn't anything like super specific about it. And that's fine. Then I ended up kind of like having a small injury, and that was weird. And then after that injury healed, I had a little bit of fun. So December was like, I'm going to do the program, but I'm going to have a lot of fun with it and not be so serious. Right. Mm-hmm. And then January hit, and it was like game time, because I know what's coming. And that's when the cycle started. And, but just all of that leading up from June has really made me appreciate a lot of different things within, the snatch and clean and jerk, and just appreciate weightlifting, appreciate different perspectives, appreciate the ability to be able to lift 5 days a week, and what that actually does, and how that really takes a toll on your body. And what, man, me, I've done a handful. I average about 2 to 3 meets a year. Mm-hmm. And this is probably the first time that I've ever felt like really, really like specific in a cycle leading up to a meet. Nice. And it's weirdly, it's kind of emotional to think about, because I've been in this sport for like 6 years. And I'm just now feeling it. I'm just now getting that, like, that hurt, that sore, that like, okay, I'm there. Now let's start tapering, damn it. And I'm starting to feel technique get there. It's like, how we've talked about this, the repetition. It's, it's not about how well you can do the snatch. It's about how many times you can do the snatch to do it well. Yeah. And the amount of times that I've snatched over the past almost year is incredible. And I feel it. It's cool. I don't know.
Yeah, no. So my little bit, 2 cents of advice. This is just what I've learned from lifting and my experience. Doesn't matter how good you feel.
Yeah.
Keep the ego down.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've got 3 attempts at the snatch and 3 attempts at the clean jerk.
Yeah.
Don't walk into it with too much confidence. And if I've learned by doing terrible in meets that I walked into just going, I'm going to crush this. I'm going to destroy this. Right. And then I get humbled real quick.
Yeah.
And the best meets that I've done, the best meet that I did, I had that mindset the whole time. Everyone's like, you're going to do so good. I'm like, we'll see. We'll find out.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to go. I know what I'd like to do, but it, like I've said before, it could be the week before, it could be the week after.
Yeah.
And if you keep that mindset, I think it'll actually keep you a lot more level-headed on game day.
And that's really good advice, by the way. So thanks for saying that. I've always walked into these meets thinking I am, I've walked into every meet just thinking like, I'm not, this is such a weird thing to say, but to walk into a meet being like, I'm probably not going to win this. I'm probably not going to win this. And I don't know if that's the training leading up to it. I don't know if that's just my insecurities. I don't know what it is. Right. But what I've never done is walk into a meet being like, I'm going to effing slay this, right? Like I've never, just never happened. And I think I'm not walking into this one like that at all. I'm walking into this with a little bit, just like 2% more confidence than I usually do.
Sure.
But I'm still, dude, 4 weeks out, I have nerves. talking about it. I'm fucking nervous. And I'm like, I want to go out there and I want to perform and I would love to hit certain numbers, but at the baseline, I want to make my openers. I want to hit some fun lifts and I just want to total. And that's it. You know, I want to go out there, total, have fun, and let the chips fall where they do. And if it means I do good, great. If it means I don't even medal, okay, I know where I need to work, right?
Sure.
Like, and that's the mentality that I have right now.
No, I think that's great. I think that the nerves are there because, like, nobody knows how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Like, you can have the perfect cycle and do the worst you've ever done. You can have the worst cycle and do the best you've ever done.
Exactly.
Walking into it, not acting like you're going to just destroy everybody, have that good attitude, have that humility in there.
Yeah.
I think that the best lifters and the best lifters and the best competitors are the ones who they don't have that big ego walking in, just telling everyone they're going to win. And like that type of a thing.
Yeah.
And then when you go in there, then it's like, you know what you've done to get there. You know the work you've put in, and now it's your time to show people what you've done. But you're not out there preaching and telling people like what a fortune, like telling whatever, predicting what you're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's so hard to predict being this young in the sport. I think maybe if I'm 10, 12, 13 years, I could probably be like, okay, I kind of have a better idea, but I still look at myself as a rookie. And what you just said is a really good segue into something, the very first thing I read in this American weightlifting book.
Okay.
I'm just going to read the quote. It's success in weightlifting isn't measured by the size of the mark we left on the sport, but by the size of the mark the sport left on us. And so I read that. I ordered this book off Amazon, the Glenn Pendlay American weightlifting book. And that was kind of like the first, I was going through scrolling and reading the comments or whatever. And that was the first thing I saw, I read on this book. And so I was like, but when I did read it, it was absolutely like, ding, like light bulb moment, right?
Yeah.
And it's so, the man is like, I can't even imagine. I wish, like, give me a room and, a couple hours a day and just let me talk to him, because this quote really, it speaks to me. It speaks to everything we talk about. And it's just so like intelligent.
Yeah. No, I've been deep diving, cramming with podcasts right now with him.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like, I've known a handful of people who lifted under Glenn for a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
And I've known some of these people very well. I've seen many sides of these people that most people haven't seen.
Right.
And what I'm learning is what so many people think is the Pendlay method is not the Pendlay method. Pendlay was such a good coach that he knew how to program and give people what they needed as a lifter.
Mm-hmm.
If they were someone who could just follow a program that is tried and true and shown to work, he could just give it to them. But if it was boring, there's other people who can't handle that. So then he would have to just give them all kinds of ridiculous stuff just to keep their attention grabbed.
Right.
And he knew what he was doing so well that it was his job to make the lifters as good as possible. Yeah. And there wasn't one blanket program that would do that. And that's just some of the little things that I was just very impressed with.
Well, and that leads into, the first paragraph that I wrote, or that I read. And at the end of the paragraph, it says, you will never be done learning the lifts for life, like always. And he says that a couple times in like the first, 20 pages that I've read. he talks about the idea, and the people that have wrote things about him talked about this, like consistently learning. It doesn't matter how far you've made it in the sport. It doesn't matter how young or old you are in the sport. You're always going to be learning the lifts. You're always going to be learning different technique. Your body changes, your technique changes. The way your body moves, your technique changes. Like, it is a lifelong process, and that's what I love about it, because I feel that it is so connected with the way I feel about food, and I've always felt about food, which is I will always be a student when it comes to the kitchen, always. And that's why I think that this sport is so interesting to me and intriguing, because I'll always be learning, and I'll always be like, I'll never perfect it, because who the hell is going to perfect something like this? It's really something that fascinates me, and I love it. I love it about it.
Yeah, no, I think that even when you get to the point where there's no more weight you can lift,
yeah,
then you can shift over to, how do I teach this?
Yep.
How do I get somebody else further? What worked good for me? What didn't work good for me? Will this work good for you or not? Or how can I modify or manipulate what worked for me to work for you?
Yeah.
And yeah,
that's really good. And then, like, your point, this it seems like it's a very untapped world. It's a very small community, smallish for a professional sport, smallish. I mean, professional. Let's just say for a sport. It's smallish, it's in comparison. We talked about that last time, about how, it doesn't get the publicity that we want it to.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's a pretty open sport. And so you can do things like that. You can, like, man, Joe Beck is holds like 6 to 7 level 1 courses a year in Portland. And I'm like, and I'm always, always intrigued. And like, I think that that's probably baseline stuff. Like, you got, go get your level 1, learn how, get that certification, and then, get a book like this. And then start reading it, or find a technique, or, and then get an athlete. Like, or build a freaking brand, have a podcast. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a cool thing. And I think we're very fortunate to be able to have weightlifting to do this. And so a lot of the times when I start hearing people complaining about how hard it is, I'm just like, man, take a step back. Just take a step back and look at what you have, and look at the ability that you have to be able to do something like this. It's something to be fortunate and to be thankful for.
Yeah. No, I think that's great.
I'm getting too deep tonight. Sorry. Oh, it's one of those days. But yeah, dude. You want me to read this paragraph here?
Sure. I have.
Oh, yeah, you go.
I have this one.
Okay.
Oh, this is the other book.
Is that the one I was supposed to order?
That's all right.
Okay.
I have that one too, but I don't have it out here.
Well, it's funny because when we talked about it, I was like, okay, I know which one this is. And then I opened it up and I'm like, well, this is just teaching me programming and the lifts. Yeah.
For people who don't know, there's 2 books.
Yeah. Okay.
The one you got is the one that Glenn worked with a ghostwriter for years to put together.
Okay.
So it's a whole lot of phone calls and conversations that he had with a ghostwriter who basically wrote the book, would read it to him. He would say, no, I don't like this part. Let's change this. This is more what I meant. Okay. I don't know what exactly a ghostwriter does, but I'm assuming that they kind of basically write it. Then they get the notes, they put it together, they come up with a idea of what they were trying to be said. Okay. And then they go back and forth, and it's meetings like that.
Yeah.
So that's how the one yours was, where it was years of work together with the writer.
Yeah.
But it was his book, but it just wasn't like actually
Actually
handwritten
him.
by him.
Yeah. And I can see that in here. I mean, and there's some quotes and there's like, yeah. And I read like the first 20 pages is probably the three, or one of the ghostwriters, and then two of his athletes that were writing to him.
So
yeah.
The book I have in front of me was written by Seb Ostrovich from Weightlifting House.
Damn it.
So
I remember you saying that. Okay.
That's all right.
Yeah.
So this book is based on everything he learned from Glenn and everything he knew about the Pendlay's the quote unquote Pendlay method and the way Glenn believed stuff and wanted stuff written down.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff that was really cool with this book is Sebastian was talking about. There was stuff that I wrote in that book under what Glenn wanted that I 100% disagree with, but it's not my book and it's not my opinion, and it's what Glenn believed. So I'm going to write down what Glenn believed, even if I think it's wrong.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Based on all of the stuff I've listened to for years and how much I've learned just through the podcast, is Seb was basically like in contact with Glenn more than anyone else in Glenn's life.
It sure does seem like it, right?
And he was the one who was actually publishing and running the Pendlay WOD. He was the one who would get the stuff from Glenn, then he would put it all out there. He was basically like Glenn's assistant.
Yeah.
So he learned more from Glenn at the end of his life than anybody else. And what he also got to learn because of not being involved in the beginning is he got to hear what Glenn said worked and what didn't work.
Yeah.
And the Pendlay method, when it was the team at the end of his life, he said was completely different than what it was in the beginning. When he said, he's always experimenting and he's always trying things out.
Yeah.
But the stuff that he was doing towards the end was what he found to be the best.
Interesting. I think that's a really pivotal perspective to have because, when you meet somebody in the beginning, that's a good perspective too, but everything in life evolves, right?
Yeah.
Like I think about people that I've met in my 20s and they would probably not even recognize me or know who I am at this point because of how we've evolved. We evolve as people, we evolve as coaches, we evolve as athletes. And so to be able to be in Glenn's life at that time and to grasp all that knowledge and hear the trials and tribulations of everything he's gone through and how he's changed his programming and how he's changed his outlook on deadlifts, right? I mean, that's a big one. There's a big episode about that. And it's almost having the advantage of saying hindsight 2020 before you have to say it.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Some of the other stuff that I've just kind of put together in my brain is you might know someone for a really long time, but if there's a hierarchy of power in your relationship with that person, you only know that version. You only know, like if let's say you took a class in high school, had the same teacher for 4 years. Do you actually know that teacher, or do you just know that teacher as a teacher?
Yeah, exactly.
But do you actually know what's going on in the background? Do you know what's going on in their life? Do you know what's going around on and so much of that stuff? Most likely not. Like I've had people in my life where they were to a different hierarchy than I was. And then later on in life, stuff changed and I actually became their friends, and where they were no longer in charge, like over me.
Right.
And it was like, this is not the person I thought I knew for years. And I kind of look at Seb's relationship with Glenn was much more like he knew who he really was. Because Glenn was never really, yes, he was his coach, but how good of a coach can an online coach really be?
Right.
And he got to see all the sides of Glenn. And yeah, they were a long distance relationship, but they talked daily. They wrote back and forth daily. They podcasted weekly. They really got to know each other at a different level than someone who would be potentially like a coach athlete relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's two different relationships 100%. And I think when I started going down the route of starting from day one on Weightlifting House and listening to those, I started, what was it? It was like 2019, the end of 19, start of 20. And I started listening to it and listening to it and listening to it. And then I stopped for a little bit. And I said, I'm going to take this time to, grasp some other sides of weightlifting, some other perspectives and see. And now that I'm coming back to it, it's very clear to why people hold Glenn at the I don't know what I'm trying to say, at the authority that they do because of his demeanor, the way he talks. And I talked about this on the polo the other day. Like the difference in personalities between Glenn and Seb are they're perfect, but they're polar opposites.
Yeah.
And you hear, Seb is this kind of like, I don't know if I may, and just from what I know of him and whatever, but like he's more soft spoken, kind of like educated, a burst of can just say things that are of a different culture because he lives across the pond. But Glenn was very like, this is how it is. This is how I've done it. And he's had, all the years and experience to back that up, but he was direct.
Yeah.
And he's just like, nope. And I love it. You know what I love most about listening to those is hearing him go off on the tangents of has nothing to do with football or nothing to do with weightlifting. When he starts talking about like the NFL or politics or his chickens, it's like the best part of it. And so, I am not fortunate enough to ever met the man or anything like that. But I think paying homage to him, like we are going to, maybe not like fully this show, but like as we move forward and I get the right book in front of me, we will pay homage to what he's done in the sport, to the best of our knowledge. And like, now I have this book, I'm going to get the other book. We're listening to the podcast and we're just gathering data and information about this man. I like it. It's respectful. It's telling the story of somebody through the way he wanted his story to be told, because we're using literature that is about him. Right.
Yep.
That's an interesting thought.
Yeah, no, I listened to everything originally live or as close to live as possible. Nice. I think when I first started listening to the Weightlifting House podcast, there was probably 20 shows that had been done prior to, like, that's when I found it. And I listened to those 20 shows. I remember exactly where I was. It was August. My house flooded. I was taking stuff out of my house, bringing stuff back into my house, repainting cabinets. Like I just remember just
best time to listen to podcasts
through these podcasts.
Yeah, exactly.
And they made a lot of sense back then. Now I listen to them. I had no idea what I was listening to back then. Like there's so much more knowledge, and I know that I'm in a different place now, but right. I'm picking up on so much more stuff, and it's just blowing my mind how smart he was. Yeah. And it wasn't the mindset wasn't there's only one way. The mindset wasn't everything that's been fed to me by former athletes.
Right.
Like they don't even understand how his mind worked. They just have an idea of what was given to them because that's what they needed to hear.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing that a coach does, right? A coach, takes an athlete and says, how do I get this specific athlete to do what I want them to do? Because each athlete is an individual. I'm sure that I'm going to guess that the way Stephanie talks to me versus you is going to be widely different, because you are we have a gap between us, and that totally makes sense. But I think to your point, it would be harder to learn the person. And you just pointed this out. So harder to learn the person based off of the authority that they have, and the fact that they are coaching, 20 individuals, and each individual is different. And so it's, there's an aspect of weightlifting that you can sit there and say is, widespread and is core functional. But you're not teaching that. You're getting the athlete. You're working based off of how they're lifting that bar off the floor to over their head. And that's going to be different from the other person. So to learn how a person is, I guess, and how they've evolved over time, it's a different perspective. I know my football coaches really well. I don't know them.
Yeah. You knew them as football coaches.
Correct. If I went over to their house and ate dinner with them, yeah, it'd probably be fun, but I would be like, okay, I'm leaving at 9:00 and I'm going. I don't want to stay, so it's like, it's a whole different ballgame. And I think the way Seb approached it, and he talked to me about this way back in the day when
he did your podcast,
when he was on my podcast, and he talked about that. He talked about, that he was just this little, he's like, I was just this little kid that was like trying to, reach out to my most idolized coach at the time. And he let me in his life. And that was like, wow, that's at the time when I was talking to him, I didn't quite grasp the volume of what he was saying, but I understand a little bit more now. And knowing that, Seb was like, he was like, let me just put me in your pocket. Yeah. Right. Just put me in your pocket and travel around with me daily. I want to know. And he did a good job at it, I think.
Yeah. And part of the reason why I haven't read fully either of the books. I've read a lot of both of them.
Yeah.
But the one thing that makes me really like the one he wrote is Glenn trusted him, I feel, more than anybody else. When he found out he had cancer, he made sure that Seb had access to everything. He's like, you have all the passwords still, right?
Yeah, I remember hearing that one. Yeah.
Been running it for a year.
Yeah.
He made sure that he pre-programmed for months and made sure that he had it. He basically handed over his legacy to Seb.
Yeah. Which you can see it in Seb, and if you continue to listen to his podcast and you continue to see how Seb is progressing, I think I just listened to one the other day, and it was closely after. It must have been fairly close to after he passed, because it was him and Josh, and they were talking about how much they missed him, and Seb said something was like, I think about Glenn a lot, but when the thought comes up, it's more of, I want him to see what I'm doing because it's what he taught me.
Yeah.
I want to know what he thinks about what I'm doing and how I'm progressing Weightlifting House. And, it's a special place for someone to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So. It's going to be a fun little experiment and knowledge of stuff that we're going to, learn and throw out there. And so I'm a really bad rewatcher. So when I watch a television program or a series of something, I don't like to go back and rewatch it. I know a handful of people that love to just sit there and watch shows over and over and over. And I'm like, the excitement is gone for me. But I started listening to some of the ones that I already listened to. I started that was it today? No, it was yesterday. And I'm not having that feeling. I'm picking up on different nuances. I'm picking up on different stuff. So I think that we're going to really take a cool deep dive into this, and it'll be fun.
Yeah, I think part of the good part, at least for me, is I didn't go back. There's a handful of episodes that I did save a long time ago where I'm like, yeah, this would be a good one for when I don't have anything to listen to.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I'm listening now in
Uh-oh.
2024.
Oh,
See me?
yeah, I got you.
Okay,
It froze up there for a second there.
Okay.
You're good.
I'm listening now in 2024 to stuff that I heard in 2018.
Oh, wow.
So it's been math amount of years.
Yeah, math. I like that.
6+ years.
Yeah.
And kind of some of the hard part is I'm listening to stuff and I'm hearing the plan and I'm hearing the goals. And then I look at the date and it's like October, or it's like August 24th, 2018. And I'm like, he died a year and 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Just knowing so much of this, knowing the future, and then kind of knowing the end of the story, but like I want to re-see the journey.
Yeah. I will say that probably one of my favorite episodes, and I'm going to say this now, but I'd like to go back at the, when we kind of get towards finish of this and say, see if that's still my favorite, but it's the last episode that he's on. It's just so authentic, and he's just acting like nothing's going on. He's making sure that people have programming. He's making sure people are lifting. It's just like, it's so authentic, and it's really a fun one to listen to.
Yeah. The one I'm on right now is like right when they're bringing up Addison Jones, his last
major
athlete who, like he was potentially going to be one of his best athletes ever. Like if Glenn didn't pass, I think that Addison would have stuck around. And I think he could have potentially been one of his best. He was 102. I think he snatched low 70s, wow. 70, 73, 74.
Wow.
Cleaned 205, clean and jerk 200, I believe.
Yeah.
Like I'd have to go back and see these numbers again. These are off of memory from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember watching Addison lift at, I think it was University Nationals in Las Vegas, and I was just blown away because I knew who he was, and I knew that Glenn was his coach, and I knew Glenn wasn't there because of his sight, and I knew so much stuff. And then I got to meet him at his at the memorial.
Oh, okay.
So that was pretty cool.
Now, does he not lift anymore?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
He hasn't posted in years.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of under the impression that he doesn't.
He doesn't, yeah. Wow, that's a big one. Those are big numbers right there, and especially for a junior. Whew.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, we're at 40 minutes. What do you got, Cornell? You got anything else?
Yeah, my breakfast this morning.
Yes. Food talk. I like that. Good transition. All right, what you got?
I saw a post and I sent it to my wife like a month ago. So then I literally went back and just scrolled back because I send her a lot of memes.
Yeah.
And I found it. And we got an air fryer for Christmas.
Nice.
And I kind of screwed up because I thought it was a pressure cooker, and I forgot that there's a difference. And then my sister was like, yeah, they do both. I'm like, no, I got the $30 one, not the one that does both.
Mm-hmm.
So everything seasoning bagel, cut it in half. The open side, put a nice thick layer of pesto on that. Nice. Put that down on parchment paper, down into the air fryer. Okay. Then drop an egg into the bagel butt.
Yeah.
The bagel butthole.
The bagel butthole. Like it.
Then I took some of that Costco sandwich ham that's like squares.
Yeah.
The square stuff. And then
yeah.
Yeah, the thin slices. I cut that into a bunch of little like small squares.
Okay.
Put that underneath and on top of a big thick slice of Havarti cheese. Put it in there for about 6 minutes. It was freaking amazing.
That sounds awesome. Yeah. That sounds really good. Did you take any pictures of it?
No, but I'll probably do it in a couple
more
times this week. And then once I took it out, I took some fresh basil and some like the flaky salt that you can like crumble in your hands, and then some pepper on top.
Nice. Dude, that sounds great. And just a solid breakfast. Like,
Yeah.
and that's something you can like take on the go. And it's, that's fantastic. So I got a little inspired. I don't kind of inspired. I'm in a weird rut with creativity with food right now. And so I said, I'm going to go to the store and just see what I can find. And I was like, I'm craving fish. So, I got a hot take here. My hot take is just stop buying wild caught salmon. Cause God, dude, I'm so sick of the bones, man. Go buy that farm stuff that the bones don't even appear anymore. They like, because I made this dish where I did this really, it was $11 a pound. So I bought 2 fillets, and I put this really nice sear, and I got some, my nonstick pan. Threw a bunch of butter in there, turned it into brown butter, so it was a little caramely smelling. And I put, face down, let it sear for like 2 minutes tops. It's hot, it's real hot pan. Pull it off, and I throw it in a 250 oven to just kind of let it come up to temp in the middle. And then, made some rice and grated some fresh ginger over the rice as it was cooking. And then made a green curry coconut like sauce to go over top. I'm like, this sounds fantastic. Like, I'm really excited about it. And I get it, and the fillets look beautiful. Put over top of rice, put the sauce on top, and I'm starting to eat, and I'm looking at my wife, and I'm like, she's got like 16 bones just lined up on her plate. And I'm like, I haven't reached the bones yet. And I got to the bones, and I'm like, this is so disappointing, because who likes to sit there and like chew on it and like pull out? Oh, it's the worst. I got good flavor. I also, so that's my hot take with food. Go buy that farmed fish, baby.
I don't think anybody eats enough of it for it really to matter.
Yeah, I know, totally. But what I did something fun today, right before, as like, have you ever heard the term aperitif? Mm-mm. So what an aperitif is it's usually a drink of some sort. And they serve it during these big course dinners, and it's always the first thing you drink, and it's always going to be something very sour. Sometimes it's vinegar, sometimes it's citrus. But what it does is it opens up the pores and the saliva glands in your mouth, so it allows you to, get hungry in a way. So I made an aperitif, and I took some fresh ginger. Peeled the skin, threw it in the blender, took a jar or a can of crushed pineapple, threw it in the blender, blended it up, strained it. So I just got the juice, threw it in the freezer. And then traditionally that's supposed to be served with a little bit of cayenne pepper on top and some lemon juice squeezed on top with a strawberry. But I didn't have all that stuff, so I just had the strawberry, put it in a shot glass, and we shot that back before. I'm telling you, man, like, I used to have these in the morning, and they're better than coffee. There's something about that fresh ginger. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not like this big ginger fan guy, but like, it's just, like, wow, it wakes you up. I don't know. It's fun. I'll send you the recipe if you want to try it.
Yeah. I don't believe I've ever had fresh ginger.
Oh, wow.
The only ginger that I've ever had, and I absolutely love it, is all the stuff that comes with sushi.
Okay.
So like,
and that's a pickled ginger.
Okay. Whenever I get sushi, if I get it from, there's a couple places like at the bougier grocery stores that have it where it's like made right in front of you. Mm-hmm. I'll always grab that little cup for like $2 of the other ginger, and I pound that.
I'll tell you, it's fresh ginger is a straight pain in the butt, because it's like it grows in these like weird finger formations.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and so like you're peeling it is just ridiculous, especially when you have these giant man hands. No, but peeling it is kind of ridiculous. So
If you're gonna blend it and strain it, do you have to peel it?
No, that was what I was just about to say. You don't have to peel it if you're going to blend it and strain it. So, and because you just get a really fine, great strainer and just push it through that. So you don't even have to worry about it. Now, another fun thing about raw ginger, and then I'll stop, but is that if you have a headache, go grab a thing of ginger and chew on it. It'll take that headache away just like that.
Nice.
It's going to be spicy as shit, and it's going to make you feel like you're going to be like, why am I doing this? But it is like the natural headache medicine. So
cool.
There's a fun little fact. Cool, man. Some good food talk there. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. All right. Well, everybody get out there. Check this show out. Let us know if there's stuff about Pendeley that you want to know about specifically. And, we can make shows specific to that. Check out Instagram. Cornell, thank you as always. Great show. And talk to you later, buddy.
Alrighty. Bye.
Adios.